Hey y'all, here's a little yoga movement sequence to get you going and centered and feeling strong in the morning. So let's start out on your back, face up. Always good to start on the back. It really helps you get centered. And by centered, I mean right here in the middle of the belly. Let's hug the knees in, a hand to each knee. Pardon the airplane flying by. And rock a little side to side. Try to get the whole back to make contact with the floor. So low back, middle back, upper back, back of the head. Try not to shrug shoulders toward the ears. In fact, you might even unshrug them a little bit and pull them wide. Let's take the knees wide and feel the width of the back between both hips, between both shoulders. And now let's squeeze the knees in toward one another. No pinchiness at the front of the hip. That's always a stop sign. But take it as close as you can. Knees toward the chest, thighs toward the belly. Feel the back make contact with the floor, and now breathe into the back as well. Let's take a couple more breaths just like that. Thighs squeezing in toward one another, back pressing into the floor. Deep, expansive breath in. Fill up the whole torso three-dimensionally like a balloon. Neck long, shoulders broad. One last deep breath in. Extend the legs and arms up toward the sky. My teacher Douglas calls this bindings and windings. Try to keep the back pressed into the floor without scooping the hips up. This will help draw the belly in, activating your transverse abdominis muscle, which is shaped kind of like a corset, and it stabilizes the lumbar spine and therefore everything else in the body. Arms and legs, reach up. Let's internally and externally rotate at the shoulders and hips while keeping the middle of the back grounded now down. So knees turn out, thumbs turn out, creases of the elbows turn out, away from one another. Now spiral the arms and legs. Turn the thumbs in, knees in, and pointy parts of the elbows out. So external and internal rotation. Try to not hike the hips side to side or contort the chest. Try to keep the shoulders nice and broad, hips broad. And notice the sensation. Usually when you externally rotate, keep spiraling by the way, when you externally rotate, there's a broadening at the front body and a contracting at the back body. When you internally rotate, the opposite. So a broadening at the back of the pelvis, a broadening at the back of the shoulders with internal rotation. One more time, external and internal rotation, binding and winding, as Douglas calls it. And now let's hug the knees back and take a moment, rock side to side, massage the back body with contact against the floor. And breathe deeply and expansively, massaging tissues from the inside out. Now let's really activate the abdomen, finding a little bit of flexion in the lumbar spine and in the back. This isn't the best thing for everybody, but for you two, I think it is. So let's grab onto the knees, push the knees forward. Hands grab strongly onto the knees, so strongly in fact that you keep pushing the knees forward, and this pulls the shoulders, upper back, and head away from the floor. Look toward your own belly button, and now try to press the low back into the ground. Hug belly button in toward the spine, but without sucking in. So that destabilizes. We want some intra-abdominal pressure, and basically what that means is the muscles are hugging from the outside in, and then pressure from like air exchange is also pressing from the inside out. Okay, so pressure from the outside in as well as pressure from the inside out. Knees push forward. This will mechanically help you press the low back into the floor if you have an issue with it, like I tend to. With my body habits. And from here, let's just play a little bit with releasing right hand from the right knee. Push the left knee forward, okay? So we're still feeling that lift up with the left knee, and maybe you feel a crisscross pattern happening across the belly. Let's do the other side. Right hand connects to the right knee. Release left hand from the left knee. Push the right knee forward. Feel all that tension and strength just from the right knee. Return both hands to the knees, push the knees forward, ground the low back, and now let's do something a little more challenging. So right hand stays where it is, left hand comes to the thigh side of the left knee. So left knee is going to push toward the face, and the left hand resists. So the knee doesn't actually move in space, but oh boy, I can feel this across my abdomen like crazy. The right knee still pushing forward, so left knee toward your face, right knee forward away from your face. Hands resisting so it doesn't actually look like the knees are moving in space. Let's switch. Left hand to the shin side of the knee, push forward. Right hand to the thigh side of the knee, push back toward your face. Knees don't actually move. And this is sometimes neurologically challenging, neuromuscularly challenging. So if it's challenging for you, just do the best you can and focus on the feeling of activation across the hips, across the abdomen. I'm feeling this in my neck too today. It's good to strengthen the neck as well. It's all a part of the core, your central column. And now let's release the head down, hug the knees in, rock a little side to side, tissues in the torso getting activated. And in these moments of rest and repose, try to let everything go. Release any tension in the jaw, face, shoulders, neck. Find happy baby pose. So reach for the feet, and if you can't reach for the feet, if you can't reach the feet, grab for the shins or ankles, just as high as you can. And in happy baby, instead of hugging the knees in and together, we're gonna pull them wide. So wherever you're grabbing, leverage, pull the shoulders back toward the floor, pull the knees toward the floor like you're gonna snug the thighs right next to the side body, but you're pulling top of the knee toward the ground next to your side bodies. Don't scoop the pelvis up. In fact, you might even kind of flare the tailbone forward and down to resist. So a lot of squeezing activation here. Try to find that activation at the abdomen as well. Belly pulling in, and then some of that intra-abdominal pressure, maintaining the shape of the abdomen, not sucking it in and collapsing and destabilizing. You can reach for the big toes here, the outer edges of the feet, or I often like to grab on top the balls of the feet, feeling a lot of contact with the toes. Let's straighten one leg or move just towards straight, as much of a stretch as you can muster. Same thing other side. Just find some alternation here. Maybe both legs straighten as much as they can. Just find your edge. Feel the sensation, and now hug the knees back in. Push the knees forward, straight arms, find that same grounding of the low back. And this time, instead of pushing the knees forward and backward, we're gonna squeeze them together. So make a fist with either one hand or two, knuckles face out and away from you. Squeeze the knees toward one another with the space being maintained by one fist or two. So feel the inner thighs activating here in addition to the abdomen. Try not to push the belly up and out. Try and keep the shape of the abdomen. All right? We're trying to kind of contain energy in here. Bring the hands now to the outer knees, and without the knees moving in space, pushing outward, resist with the hands. Push the knees out into the hands. It's a different sensation, right? Feeling it. I'm feeling it more at the outer hips, but sometimes we feel these things in different places. Let's squeeze in one more time and push out one more time, and now hug the knees in. Keep the right knee, release the left leg long. This is called Ardha Apanasana in the Hatha yoga tradition. Feel the length at the front of the left hip after feeling hip flexion, knees coming in toward the belly. Push the back of the left knee down toward the floor and push the back of the heel down toward the floor as you push the foot itself away from you. So feeling a lot of length and strength in this hip extension. Right knee hugs in, differentiate between what's going on at the right hip and what's going on at the left hip, with the pelvis and abdomen staying pretty neutral. Take some abduction and adduction here. Just assist pushing the right knee out and squeeze it in. Try to cross the midline. Again, no pinchy sensation at the front of the right hip. Left hand can stay at the front of the left hip just to make sure it's not moving too. We want to isolate this range of motion at the right hip here. Okay. Next time the right knee comes back in, let's Bend and straighten at the right knee. You can even point and flex at the foot while you do this, but the focus is at the knee. So get it all the way bent, no pain, all the way straight. If you have to lower the whole leg forward to get terminal knee extension, the knee gets so straight that you can contract with activation at the thigh right next to the knee. Do that a few more times. Next time you lift the leg, knee doesn't have to be straight. Interlace fingers at the back of the thigh. Circle the right foot and ankle around 3 times in each direction. Don't move the knee or the hip, just isolate range of motion at the ankle. Take it slow, and if there's a problem area, an area where you can't really find range of motion, focus more there. Hug the knee back in, plant the left foot, cross the right ankle above the left knee for figure 4. You can take a moment here just to feel your pelvis in a neutral position. And now, instead of the low back pressing against the floor, you can maintain a more neutral spine, which is usually some extension at the low back, lifting the low back just slightly away from the floor. Keep the ribs not flaring up. And I hope that has been happening the whole time. Try to hug the front rib cage down, actually, just to maintain a neutral rib cage and a neutral pelvis. You can tilt a little side to side here at the hips with the legs, finding a figure 4 twist just to notice the sensation, the dimension, the rotation here before we come back to center and find figure 4 bridge. Root through the left foot strongly. That means the heel, the ball of the foot, and every single toe grounds down. Push into the foot and scoop the hips up just a little bit at first. Make sure the knee feels okay and you feel strong before pressing the pelvis up. Press the pelvis up as high as you can. You might even help a little with the hands. Still got figure 4 going on, right knee drawing out to the side without turning the pelvis that way. So make sure the pelvis stays neutral. Let's lower down with control. And now bring your figure 4 in towards you. Just push the left knee towards your left shoulder. Let it take the whole right leg with you. Option to reach the right hand through the space between the thighs and either interlace fingers or grab at the front of the knee or back of the thigh. Right elbow can push the right knee out to the side here. And personally, I like to rock a little side to side. Feel my back against the ground. I have a little bit of scoliosis, so this helps me broaden in areas where I usually collapse. And breathe deeply to feel that space from the inside out. Release sole of the left foot down, uncross the right leg, plant the feet wide, and windshield wiper the knees side to side. Feel the rotation in both hips. Feel the rotation across the lumbar spine, across the abdomen. Now let's come back to center. Hug the left knee in, release the right leg long, and let's find activation in Ardha Appanasana on the other side. So push the back of the right knee down, push the back of the right heel down, and push the sole of the right foot forward. Feel all that elongation at the front of the right hip. Open and close the left knee. Maybe right hand stays on the front of the right hip so that you know you're not rolling it side to side. Just isolate this movement at the left hip and try to cross the midline when you bring the left knee in. The low back isn't pressing into the floor here. This is more of a neutral spine once again. Make sure the front of the rib cage is not flaring up toward the ceiling. It's almost hugging down a little bit. And notice if you clench your jaw or you shrug your shoulders here, because those are just some habitual things that we do to try to stabilize. All right, let's come back to center and bend and straighten at the left knee. You can point and flex at the foot too if you want, but mostly just focus on the knee, all the way bent, all the way straight until the thigh muscles right around the knee contract. And even if you have to lower the leg forward to get terminal knee extension, please do. Just find flexion and extension a couple more times. And now left knee doesn't have to stay straight, just interlace fingers at the back of the left thigh and circle the left foot and ankle around, but not the whole leg. Just isolate the range of motion at the foot and ankle, 3 circles in each direction. And if you have an area, a range in this imaginary circle that you're drawing that's a little bit wonky, actually pay a little more attention there. Okay, pause, hug the knee back in, plant the right foot, cross the left ankle on top of the right knee, figure 4, neutral spine, ribs not flaring up. Let's tilt left and right. Feel the spiraling rotation happen at the hips, at the abdomen, at the side bodies, and at the back. And now come back to center. Neutral pelvis, ground the right foot strongly, push into the right foot. Lift just a little bit at first to make sure you feel strong, that the right knee is okay. And then push the pelvis up. We're not arching too much at the back here. Actually, try to keep, again, the front ribs kind of pulling toward the front of the pelvis, but push the front of the pelvis up toward the ceiling. The left knee still opens wide without rotating the whole pelvis in that direction. Pelvis stays neutral. Hands can help scoop you higher. Why not? Make sure the right heel, right sole of the foot, ball of the foot, and every single toe are grounded down. No weird things happening at the grounded foot. Lower with control. Press right knee toward the right shoulder. Take the left leg with you. You can reach left hand through the space between the thighs and either interlace fingers or grab at the back of the right thigh or front of the knee. Personally, I like to rock side to side here. Continue to push the left knee wide, maybe even with your left elbow. Good old figure 4. Breathe deeply and broadly into the whole back body. And exhale, release sole of the right foot down. Uncross the left leg, plant the feet wide, windshield wiper the knees side to side. Hug both knees in, curl up into a ball, grab the back of the thighs, and almost like you're pumping your legs on a swing, let's roll forward and backward. And if you feel like you're skipping over your low back here, then try that pushing of the knees forward before you do this. We want to try and get the low back to feel a sense of grounding. Once you come up, lean back into the hands and open the knees wide for a bear sit. I don't know if you've ever seen a bear sit, but bear sit like this. Lean back into the hands. Try to keep a neutral spine. Knees pull wide with strength. And let's rotate one hip at a time internally without pushing the pelvis up. So glue both sits bones down. Internally rotate. No pain at the front inner aspect of the hip. If you do at any time, that's a stop sign. That often means there's something going on at the joint capsule, so very deep. And pushing into it doesn't actually help anything. So just so you know, internally rotate, no pain. Open both knees wide, pull them wide with strength. So we want strength at both ends of range and then ideally through the whole range. So try to squeeze your thighs, squeeze your hips. Keep that intra-abdominal pressure going on. We're not moving at the pelvis. Internally and externally rotate one hip at a time. No pain at the knees, no pain at the hips. Take your time with it and squeeze, press inward, pull outward. At least 5 times on each side. This one exercise really can do so much for the hips. When we can't internally rotate at the hip like this, we start hiking the pelvis up, and this often causes back pain and hip pain. So just good to know. All right. After you're done with your internal and external hip rotation, let's find a cross-legged position and take a forward fold. Doesn't matter to me how deep your fold is. If you even need to if you're one of these peeps like I used to be, then press your hands behind you and just help yourself sit up tall. Keep your feet flexed or dorsiflexed, and then with the strength of your hips, push your knees down and wide. And this might be your edge. Keeping the abdomen strong, the feet flexed and strong at the hips will actually help. And then think about your belly button pulling forward rather than your head or your shoulders, okay? If this is more accessible for you, if you can sit up like this, then I want you to pull your belly forward. You can still keep the feet flexed, especially if you have knee pain. But think about your sternum lengthening forward. Nice flat back for as long as you can. And then when you can't hip hinge any further, then you can let yourself round. Maintain length in the spine, release the jaw, release the face, release the shoulders. Breathe into the back body, stay with the sensation. And if it's too much to stay consciously connected to the sensation of this cross-legged forward fold, then you're too deep. Just come out of it a little so that you can stay with the sensation. Option to undulate side to side, serpentine style. Finding lateral flexion sequentially, starting at the low back, mid back, upper back, neck, then head. People usually lead this movement with the head, so that's the challenge, is to let the head follow, not lead. Let's take one more breath. And now crawl the hands in, rise up, lean back just enough to switch the cross of the legs. It's a different sensation. Same thing, find your edge. Maybe that means hands behind you, sitting up tall, pushing the knees down, flexing the feet. Maybe that means hinging at the hips, leaning forward, pull the sternum forward. Focus on the hip hinge first, and then when you can't hinge at the hips anymore, let the spine round into some flexion. Option to stay still, option to serpentine side to side, especially if you did on the other side. Head doesn't lead, head is last to laterally flex in sequence. Hopefully this feels good. Make sure you're not holding your breath, ever really, but your breath is expanding you from the inside out. We maintain some activation to keep the spine long, the shoulders broad, the hips broad, and the side bodies long without clenching the jaw or shrugging the shoulders. Belly can hug the spine here. That often helps if you have chronically contracted musculature at the low back. Then activating at the low belly will help give the muscles of the low back permission to not stay so shortened and contracted. Let's crawl the hands in, rise up. Sit up tall, open the legs wide for a seated wide-legged forward fold. Again, does not matter to me how wide your legs are, find your range. And same thing, if you need to keep hands behind you to help yourself sit up tall, then just squeeze everything. Flex the feet toward your face, push the backs of the knees down, push the backs of the heels down, pull the thighs wide, hug the belly in, right? Not flaring the rib cage up, but you can still pull the shoulders back. Keep the spine long. Imagine the crown of the head is lengthening straight up out of the waist, actually. From here, you can fold forward. Doesn't matter if your arms are up or wide or forward. We're just focusing on abduction and flexion at the hips. So to focus on that, just stabilize everything else to the best of your ability. Activating more is often helpful, at least for this approach, where we're enlivening, awakening, activating sensation, awareness, and strength. Breathe into the back. Make sure you're not clenching the jaw or face or shoulders. Long neck, broad collarbones, active legs. One more breath here. And crawl the hands in, rise up. Come into a tabletop position, hands and knees. If the wrists don't feel good, you can bring the knuckles down. Why not? Focus on range of motion at the spine. So let's start. This is cat-cow. We're just going to take it really slow. Lift the tailbone, extend through the low back, extend through the mid back, upper back, neck, and then head. One big back bend. Now tuck the tailbone, round through the low back. This is challenging for me, and I think you too, so let's bring one hand to the low belly and actually press up at the low belly to help find flexion in this quadruped position. And after you get the low back into flexion, then get the mid back, upper back, and back of the neck, tuck the chin down. So tailbone's tucked, chin is tucked, belly pulls up. Inhale, extend one vertebra at a time, low back, mid back, upper back, neck, and head into one big back bend. Exhale, tuck the tailbone round through the low back. If you liked that belly pull with the hand, just switch hands this time. Press the belly up, then round through the mid back, upper back, neck, and head. Keep that up for a couple more rounds, either just both hands down, finding your cat-cows, or one hand coming to the belly during spinal flexion. Come back to hands and knees. Let's crawl the hands to the right and step the left foot up. Crawl the hands back to center, either planting just inside the left foot or hands can come to frame the left foot. I call these kneeling lunge rockers. You might want to scoot the back knee back a little bit. Rock forward and backward. Make sure the back knee is grounded on something comfortable. We don't want just the contact of the bones against the floor to distract us from what's going on at the hips. Try not to sway side to side here at the pelvis. Just keep the pelvis tracking symmetrically. And when you rock forward and backward, there's lots of options. You can either keep the front foot grounded down when you rock the hips back to stretch the front of the foot and ankle. When you rock forward, you can press the pelvis forward. Feel the stretch at the front of the right hip. It's okay if you over lunge in the front knee. That's actually good for the ankle. So feel free to keep the heel down and try to track the knee as far forward over the toes as you can into dorsiflexion. When you rock back, remember either sole of the foot can stay down or toes can flex towards your face. And one of my favorite variations of this hamstring stretch is without wiggling the booty side to side, rotating the whole left leg at the thigh where the thigh plugs into the pelvis. Rotating left and right, looks like you're waving with your foot. Not swaying the booty side to side, rotating the leg. Woo. Let's crawl back forward, hands come to the inside of the left foot, step the left knee back, crawl the hands to the left, step the right foot forward. Same thing, other side, hands can stay at the inside of the right foot or frame the right foot. Kneeling lunge rockers, you can point or flex the front foot when you rock backward. And when you press forward, really press the pelvis forward, feel the stretch in the front of the hip. Abdomen can stay activated here to stabilize the lumbar spine so we can focus on what's going on at the hips. Any variations are welcome. Please just do what your body's calling for. Some people like to rise all the way up, for instance. When you rock the hips back, take that little foot wave here. So right toes flex towards your face. Don't sway the booty. Rotate the right thigh, left and right, internally and externally. And maybe find some sticky spots. All right, crawl forward, lunge forward one more time. Hands come to the inside of the right foot, step the right foot back, return to hands and knees, take a cat-cow. And now come to center. And that should do you great for a nice morning routine. Looks like it'll take 30 minutes. Love you guys. Hope you feel good. Give me some feedback. Let me know how it goes.